Well, hello and welcome to PM Express, and today we are talking about wild shepherds. Wild shepherds. Now, the majority of Ghanaians are, meat-eating people, and every day we go to the market and you buy a kilo, a pound of a meat, and then you take it home. It's very rare you go further to ask the woman, where did this cow come from? Because generally Ghanaians are not cattle rearing people. The Fulanese are, even though some Fulanese are Ghanaians. However, we don't bother to find out. But this menace is growing. As the population is growing, the demand for meat is growing. As the economy seems to be booming, it's the right place to bring cattle. If you are anywhere within the West African countries, best choice is go to Ghana. They're more likely to be able to afford your cow. Again, there's greenery and there's lots of rivers. So everything seems to be ideal. The economy is fine. There's a lot of green. There's a lot of waters. And then to top it all, the Ghanaians in general are not a very violent people. And I think the icing on the cake is that we look away from the rules. We know what the rules are, but we don't obey it. So if you are a cattle rancher and you're going to look for somewhere to graze your cattle, there's no better place than to bring it to Ghana. However, the truth on the ground is that we have uncles and aunties and mothers who don't live in the cities. They live in the rural areas. They have their 1 acre, their half acre, maximum 5 acres that they cultivate. This is their daily livelihood. That's how they pay their fees. That's how they feed. And somehow you have a few bad nuts within these Fulani groups who would bring their cattle to come and graze on these farms. And it's a menace. And the worst is sometimes, the really bad nuts in there, go further to maim, kill, and rape the women in these areas. How do we stop it? It's 2017. Can anybody just take a bunch of cattle and just, trek up across the land because there's free movement in ECOWAS? We must put a stop to this. 17 people recently died. It's not right. Folks, my name is Nana Sakwa, the 4th Chief of Akwemo Dumasa and your host. When I go for the break, we'll watch a short clip of some of the menace going on in the country, and then I'll come back, introduce my guest, and then we get rolling. Don't move.
The Bono Ahafo region has had its share of the nomadic herdsmen native standoff. Safety and security of local people in affected communities are under constant threat. Clashes between the two groups have claimed lives and property in Berekum, Kentampo and Techima municipalities, as well as Sene East District. In more recent incidents, 17 people were killed, 13 others wounded, and a number of houses torched within the first half of September alone in Kentampo municipality. The dead victims comprised 15 normals and 2 natives. Flashpoints include Agege, Kawompe, Kunsu, Gulumpe, Atakura, and Babatokuma. Here is Assemblyman for Kunsu electoral area, Dujina Martin.
We picked 4 bodies and 5 wounded people. The people came in the night, midnight, and attacked these people. So we doesn't know anything. And I can't tell you this or that. We didn't know the people. But the only thing we heard is that those concubines farmers, they came here and they said the Fulani men or Fulani herdsmen, they've left their animals and the animals destroyed their food stuffs or their farms.
We suspected it, but because of the moves that we put in place, we thought that was the end of it. We put together a team of Fulanis, and some opinion leaders, some chiefs from the Konkomba side. And they did a very good job. They went to the communities to appeal to the people for calm. Because I told them that, initially when the first incident happened, there were no arrests. The police said they did all that they could. They couldn't arrest, they couldn't make any arrest. So this time round, the accusation was that when the initial one came up, when the first one came up, no arrests were made. That was what, made them to repeat the attack, the killing. So they wouldn't listen.
The injured victims are on admission at the Techima Holy Family Hospital and the Kompanoche Teaching Hospital respectively. There are fears of escalation of violence as both sides plan reprisal attacks in other communities where there are herdsmen.
They were attacked by those people just like that, and they just killed them. They killed them and they burnt all their houses. And their clothing, everything, food stuff, everything is now spoiled, and now they are hanging around.
The situation has put the District Security Committee on high alert, as indicated by Municipal Chief Executive Mark Osako. He says the Assembly is overstretched, having to spend a chunk of its resources to manage the nomadic herdsmen issue, in addition to chieftaincy matters.
The Kintampo Municipal Assembly is having to spend so much. The activities of farmers, the activities of Fulanis are impacting so negatively on us, especially on our finances. Because of this issue, whatever we get goes into police operation, military operation.
In Berekum municipality, the situation can be described as a ticking time bomb. Native chiefs and the people in about 7 communities are arming themselves for a forceful eviction of the herdsmen. Traditional authorities with Municipal Security Committee have extended by 1 month deadline of an eviction order to the normals. They include Kota, Tilbabi, Abisase, and Amankokwa. Others are Akrofro, Mpatasie, Pepase, and Akunkrom. A mere bloody eviction attempt 2 years ago is at the heart of the current tension. Vast loads of residents of 5 communities, armed with guns, clubs, and other weapons, launched crusade against the herdsmen in their camps. OFOSU-HENE, Nana Kwaku Bambre into the second, is one of those who led the onslaught.
I organized men from my community, various villages like Mpatasie, Akrofro, Pepase, Bisase, even some from even the Sekwa. We joined hands to fight these Fulani people with cutlasses, even some little ammunitions. We can. That fatal day, it took us a hectic time, but we try our best, keep on, but we couldn't fight with these people because they are well armed. Some of them using even like AK-47. So how can we use our local made gun to fight with these people? So we have no option to come back and prepare ourselves properly.
Natives expect the Regional Security Council and the District Security Committee to lead the fight. A September 15, 2017 deadline by the chiefs and the people has been extended to October 16 to give the herders time to prepare and move out voluntarily. Municipal Chief Executive Kofi Ajay says The security committee backs the chiefs in the position.
At this material moment, I think it's the best decision because the farmers, they earn their source of income through their farming activities. That is where they use the money to, look after their wards in the secondary schools and the rest. And if their farms are destroyed, where are they going to get the needed money to sponsor their wards in the schools and even when they are sick? So at this material moment, I think even though it might not be the best solution, at this material moment is the best answer.
JoyNews investigations reveal months of advanced preparations by natives, led by their chiefs, to face off with the herdsmen. Nana Barberintu says the people can no longer tolerate destruction of crops by cattle.
We'll try to get the police and the military involved, but we're ready to do that again. But by this time, it will go. We'll take another strategy to involve the security agencies on this fight. Then we are ready to do that. But the difference will be the first initial steps. It is we alone. But this time, we wanted to invite the security agencies to assist. So we use the little we have to do this because we have to get our land back. Because our ancestors use their blood and fight for this land for us. So it's our time to reclaim the land back. So the little we have, even the local manufactured guns or what we have, we will use that.
That cannot be ruled out at all because, even within this period that the nomadic herdsmen were given to leave, the cattle are still causing a lot of distractions to the farmers. But the farmers have adopted a wait-and-see attitude. These days, they said they will not report any case, but just to stay put and watch. And so, you can imagine the way they are stomaching or, accumulating this sort of, anger. When the time comes and they don't leave, it's going to be a different ballgame altogether.
So that's the nature of the conversation today. And with me today is the man who obviously did this documentary and brought this news out, Ohime Teria, multimedia journalist. Ohime, you're welcome.
Thank you, Nana.
Good. And then I have here Dr. Opon Anani, Chairman, Ghana Cattle Ranching Project Committee. Doc, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Ohime, let me start with you. How bad is the situation on the ground?
Nana, this is a very big question because following up this issue as a journalist, I look at this from 3 different angles: Ashanti, Eastern, and then Bono Ahafo region, where these nomadic herdsmen farmer clashes are very rampant. And I must say that it's a very precarious situation because when you listen to people and they say that this is a land bequeathed us by our grandfathers by their blood, and we do everything possible to protect these lands, it tells you the magnitude of the issue at hand.
But you see, normally it's very rare for a herdsman to just come and pitch here unless they've spoken to somebody and say, look, let me rent this space, take a cow or take 2 cows so I come and graze my cattle here. What's the story with this?
There are 2 types of nomadic herdsmen here. We have the ones that have sought permission or got the lands from our traditional authorities or prospective landowners, and there are other the other group is those who have no idea of who the owners of the lands are, and they maraud the land with their cattle. Wherever they want to go, they go with the cattle. So those who have permission from the landowners, they are there. And there are others who have no permission from landowners, but still graze, use their cattle to graze the land. So this is the difference. And even then, there are also other cattle owners. These are the local ones who keep the cattle in kraals, and that one is there. So when we talk of nomadic herdsmen, there are those who are from Mali, Niger, Nigeria, Burkina Faso, but have no permission or no permit to use the land. And there are others who are also owned by some Ghanaians. And the nomadic herdsmen are managing them on behalf of those owners. So these are the people who have permission to use the land from traditional leaders or landowners.
But are we saying that those with permission don't cause mayhem? Or, I say this because, I have a similar problem where even though the cattle are in the next town, they come to my land to come and drink water. But I haven't accepted any cattle within my jurisdiction. However, it's just a thin line between myself and where they were legally supposed to stay. So, I mean...
yeah, following up the story, what I got to know is that even those who have permission to use demarcated land area, they go beyond the demarcation because there are no checks and balances to check whether these people are confining the animal within that demarcated land. And they do all sort of things. They don't care whether this farm belongs to a chief or belongs to, say, a police officer or anybody at all. So they go around and graze wherever that they will get. And the problem is that most of them also graze in the night. So there are no barriers. And meeting some of these herdsmen, they admitted that, yes, that is one of the difficulties we ourselves have been facing. Because you have only one herdman in charge of a group of cattle, and he's in control, takes the animals out in the morning, afternoon, and then at night. In the night, we are talking about 9 p.m., 10 p.m., and they'll still be on the field grazing. So it's difficult to even manage or control the cattle, the movement of these cattle. So that has been the problem, Nana.
Wow, let's go to the chairman, Ghana Cattle Ranching Project Committee, Dr. Obon Anani. Doc, this problem is not new. And I was talking to you off here, and you actually drew my attention that, Togo and, Ivory Coast have cattle, but they don't have these problems. So what have they done that we can't copy?
Well, as you know, these migrant Fulanis bring their cattle into Ghana for 3 purposes: to get food, that is pasture, water, and also to trade. But there is an ECOWAS protocol that says that the cattle must come through approved entry points. And then they must also come with health certificates. But that doesn't happen to Ghana. I don't know why that is the situation. They come through any point at all, and they go anywhere that they want. And that is one of the reasons why we have this problem. Actually, I don't know what happens in the other countries that they don't get the sort of problem that we do have.
I see, but haven't we gotten to a point where you need to confine cattle? I mean, should cattle, graze? I mean, Nima has grazing cattle. I mean, that's the capital city, 3 kilometers to the president's residence. And there's cattle grazing in Nima. I mean, shouldn't cattle now be confined?
Yes, cattle must be confined. And that is what is done in so many countries. They confine the cattle, give them food, and give them water. And they perform very, very well. And it's a high time that we go the same way.
But you are the chairman of the, have you proposed it? Why can't we do it?
We can do it, no doubt about that. but it is a process and must start from somewhere. The committee was launched not too long ago, but we are looking at ways whereby cattle keeping in this country is going to be a business. The animals must be confined, food must be provided to them, either as grazing or prepared feed, such as agro byproducts, stock of maize and so on, provided to them, and then provided veterinary care as well. And that's the way we want to go.
And who should lead this crusade? Which department?
Well, the Ministry for National Security, together with the Ministry for Food and Agriculture, put up the committee, the Ghana Cattle Ranching Project, with a committee to look at ways to solve, for once and for all, the problems that we've been facing over the years through the transhuman livestock that come into the country, and again get into ranching. So that is why the name of the project, Ghana Cattle Ranching. Ranching is a major objective that we need to do, and we are going to do it. So I would say that it's starting now. We are putting together strategies, in order that we should be able to start as soon as possible.
I mean, Ohime, do you get any sense with the people that they see any ranching coming? Because, I mean, from when Akuakusapon started fighting cattle, I mean, we were, I was quite young. I'm going to my retirement and we are still fighting cattle. I mean, what would it take for somebody to, ranch up an acre, 5 acres of land and say, look, I'm keeping my cattle in here? Did you get any sense?
No, not at all. The people think that this issue has been with them for quite a long time, more than 30 years. And I've met security experts who have sat on several committees to find lasting or amicable solutions to this cattle nomadic herdsmen issue. But the approach has been the fighting approach. Whenever there's an issue, we come, we survey, and once we are able to douse out the fire, then we think that we've been able to solve the problem. The people have lost, that touch that we'll be able to provide ranching system to confine the cattle. All that they want to see one day is to wake up and realize that their lands have been, the cattle have been driven away from their lands, and that is what they want to see. Not to talk about providing ranch for the cattle or whatsoever. The people themselves are peeved, and they are not satisfied with the way governments have handled this issue. Like I said, for the past 30 years, they have lived with this issue. Many of them have been killed. Communities have been wiped away. Go to Eastern region. In the Abitifi area, about 17 communities, they used to be vibrant and active. Now they are no more in existence. Schools have collapsed. Businesses have collapsed. People's livelihoods are no more there. The people have lost touch with the government, and they think that if government has failed to do the bidding on our behalf, now it is time for us to do it ourselves.
I mean, Doc, I mean, you can. I mean, where is the sense of hopelessness coming from? I mean, I don't, because it's not as if there's, hundreds and thousands of, herdsmen, because there's normally one or two with lots of cattle. So, I mean, why are we so, it's as if your hands are tied and you just can't do anything about it?
Well, there have been a number of attempts in the past
to
solve the problem.
Cow leg, Operation Cow Leg.
Yes. But I think we, the committee, think that maybe the approach should have been different. There's a need to engage the stakeholders and create awareness among them so that there's some sort of understanding between them. And then finds way of satisfying both groups. That is the transhuman herdsmen, mainly the migrant ones, those coming outside, and the internal ones. And as I was saying, in the long run, there ought to be ranching. We need to get them, find places for them, so that they don't destroy other people's crops.
So, but are we safe to say it will never happen? Because it's not even on the table for discussion.
Where there has been so many attempts, and everybody is fed up, our farmers are fed up, and again, also, I believe the transhuman herdsmen are also fed up in a way, and there's a need to come together, find solutions. I mean, this has been a perennial problem, and we cannot keep on going like that. That is why we want to find a lasting solution, and I am confident that we will be on the right way, so that our farmers are not going to face the sort of problems that they've been facing all these years.
Dr. Pong, I'll come back to you, but let me acknowledge Superintendent Nicholas OPARE, OFOSU-HENE, Berekum District Police Commander. Sup, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, too.
Good. Sup, if you just hold on 1 second, I'll come straight to you, but I'm going to Dr. Anani to find out. You know, when we do ranching, does it mean that I will just build my ranch and sit and wait if there's something, so like a ranch hotel, so that you bring your cattle in, they stay for the night or stay for 2 nights and I charge you? How's the ranching going to work?
Well, what we are doing now is to engage landowners, traditional rulers, and for lands that can be used as grazing reserves, where the herdsmen can take the animals, you know, for grazing, and again also getting feed, not necessarily in the form of grasses. We want to encourage the private sector to take up feed preparation for cattle in the form of hay, for instance, where byproducts, you know, after harvesting, you know, the stock of the maize, sorghum, millet, whatever is left out of the cowpeas and so will be baled and brought to them at these places, so that they will use for their livestock, for the feeding, and the water will be provided. So talking about ranching, that's the way of going about it. But again, we also want to have feedlots. That is a type of reserve, but not so open. These are demarcated, where herdsmen, cattle owners can take their cattle in and have all the necessary things that they need, you know, feed, water, and so on, and pay for it. You know, pay for it in terms of not necessarily using money, but kind, so that some of the animals can also be taken away from them, depending on the length of time that they've stayed there, the number of animals that they brought. And then this can be used to set up our own indigenous farmers, I mean, especially the youth. And this will be in the ranching system, so that the animals will not be left to roam about as they do all the time, but will be confined and get all that they need. And perform very well.
I'll come back to you with this ranching and baling, and you know, even human beings can get routes to their houses. I'm wondering where, you know, if somebody is ranching in the middle of nowhere, what track would take the builder? But I'll come back to you. But let me go to the phone and speak to Superintendent OFOSU-HENE. So why is the police or the military, the forces, so helpless when it comes to these, you know, herdsmen?
Thank you very much for this question. First of all, let me say that we are not helpless. They say we are not helpless, but we have to tread cautiously, because you can't just move in and start chasing people here and there. And that is why we take our time. But that doesn't mean that we are helpless. We take our time and then meet with the community and then opinion leaders to see how best we can resolve this issue. Because they are here, they serve our interest by, you know, we getting some meat from them, and they also getting some pastures and other things. So you can't just move in with force to go and drive them away, but you need to, you know, collaborate with all the stakeholders and then take a decision. That is why we go slowly on them.
So, but in this case where the landowner is so fed up, is resorting to violence, you know, taking the law into their own hands, going to probably end up, being the bad person at the end of the day. I mean, what more is there to tread cautious? It's my land. I don't want cattle. I have police. I expect that the police will come in and say, look, Mr. Fulani or Mr. Herdsman, the man says, leave his land. I mean, what are you treading cautious for?
You see, the police cannot take that decision alone. The whole thing is, the District Security Committee is our responsibility to do that. So if there is a problem, we meet as a dissect or MUSEC and take a decision on it. The police alone cannot jump in to say that we are going to drive the Fulani away or we are going to, chase the cattle away. So we need to tread cautiously. That is what I'm saying by treading cautiously. And by so doing, you have to seek the opinions of the MUSEC and the farmers and the stakeholders before we can move in. We are not helpless at all.
Superintendent, I am a chief myself and I have my jurisdiction. If I have cattle on my land, I can resort to two things. Either rally my boys so that we go and cause mayhem, or I call the police to say, listen, this cattle is destroying the farms of my citizens and I want the cattle out. I don't need you talking to RECSEC and the MP and the DCE. It's my land. I don't want the cattle, period. Are we saying that if cattle comes on your land, that's it, you are doomed?
No, please. Lana, that is not it at all, because when they come to your land, you don't need them. Initially, some farmers gave their land out to these herdsmen.
Okay.
And they were grazing on. They were in the smaller numbers. Then later, some also moved in when they realized that there's a lot of place to graze.
Mm-hmm.
They brought in some from all their friends, their relatives, and they all came and filled that land. You see, so you cannot just say that once they've come to graze on your land, you are going to jump on them. And when you do that, then it's going to be confrontational. When there is a confrontation, either you harm yourself or they harm you. You harm them or they harm you. And that is why we always advise them to exercise patience when the District Security or Municipal Security Committee meets and then take a decision on it. And then try to make sure we cool down tempers, and then we talk to the farmers for them to understand before we take a decision on it. It's not, one-off thing that you go and then enter the land and say, because they say they don't need you, we are chasing you away. That is why I'm always talking about treading cautiously and then making sure that all the stakeholders, come into agreement before we take that decision.
Superintendent, but you agree with me that this issue has been with us for far too long, where people complain about rapes, deaths, attacks, destruction of plants. It's just been far too long, and it's very, very unfair, that I graze I plant my 1 acre hoping that it grows, that I can make a living, and I come back in the morning and somebody's run a cattle through it, and I just have to wait for some diplomacy to take place.
It is true. Fortunately, we in Berekum area have not yet encountered any such serious situation where there has been death or rape or attack on some farmers, and only the destruction of their crops. And then the destruction too is sometimes it becomes a lot of a problem. When you are trying to deal it, you are trying to go alone, that you want to resolve it in your own way, like you are a farmer and you want to take the law into your own hands. It's going to result in a whole lot of things. That is why we try to seek the opinion of all the stakeholders before we take any action. We take the action collectively and not the police alone and not the farmers alone, and so that nobody blames the other for taking such a decision.
Superintendent, but you see, there are laws governing these herdsmen. But I doubt if any policeman has ever approached anybody and said, look, let me see your veterinary certificate. Which border did you enter through? What were the protocols? Where do you have to rest? Where do you have to graze? Where do you have to drink? There are all laws governing this. But the guy whose farm's destroyed always becomes the victim. You wait for the diplomacy, you wait for this. And for the past 30 years, I mean, the farmer has been waiting. Yet the herdsman, doesn't abide by the state laws. They don't respect our laws, but they go free.
In fact, for that much, I think that's what I've been saying, that we have to take time, and then we are not, if there is any situation that confronts us, we pass it on to also our headquarters and the appropriate quarters. So everybody has a role to play in this. It's not only the Berekum or any other police station that can do this. So it's collective effort, and all of us must ensure that these things are done.
Superintendent OFOSU-HENE, thank you very much. I'm going to take a quick break, and then when I come back, I'll come to studio and then we'll start talking, but we've been waiting for quite a long time. Don't move. Well, it's just like the story of the galamsey. Well, it was growing and growing, and it was becoming a menace, and nobody could understand why, in the face of all this distraction, security forces couldn't do anything. Here we are, livestock grazing on people's land. And even if I say I don't want it, I need to wait for diplomacy. And for years and decades, we are still waiting for diplomacy. Dr. Puanane, here's a policeman telling, me that, look, even if you don't want the cattle on your land, you need to wait for DISEC, RegSec, DESSEC. For what? I mean, if a thief came to my house, I just want him out. I don't want any diplomacy. And it's literally, if I have my farm and you brought your cattle, I'm not waiting for diplomacy. I want them out.
Yeah. Well, I hope it wouldn't take too long, for these sort of things to be over. At the moment, we are setting up regional and district committees, to engage the chiefs, the various stakeholders, the farmers, the herdsmen, and also to identify potential areas that can be used as reserves. So we are going to work very, very hard, engaging everybody, so that we will all understand and accept what we are going to do. Once they all buy into it, I think we are going to succeed, and we are going to work very hard. So I can assure you, by in a year's time, it ought to be different. It can't be the same as usual. There ought to be a change.
I mean, I don't know how the chiefs, can help in this, because are there new ones coming in, or these guys are already in there already? But then, as the officer was saying, there may be 20 cows, and because you're not in the bush, the next thing you know, there are 60 cows. You don't even know when the 40, came to add to the number. How can the traditional rulers help? I mean, here's the chief who's, looking for arms to go and fight. How can they help?
Now they can be of help in several instances, because they are the custodians of the land. They are the owners. In some instances, they are the same people who release land to these nomadic herdsmen. There are other instances where the chiefs have no idea of their lands being taken over by the herdsmen, because the herdsmen move at night, and in most cases they also move onto lands that are far away from the communities. I think that looking at this issue, especially from Dr. Anani's point of view and the committee's point of view, it means I wouldn't want to be a prophet of doom, but over the years we've seen it over and over, that there have been instances where we say, okay, let's adopt this approach, but at the end of the day we come back to square one without being able to address the challenge. And I foresee this very huge challenge on the hands of the committee, because a lot of people are complicit. There are security officers who are complicit, there are traditional authorities or leaders who are complicit, and even there are top politicians who are so involved, they are neck deep in this issue. And it will be very difficult if we say we are going to use a year or, let me say, few months to address this issue. So if, for instance, they want to start the engagement with the traditional authorities to see how best they can release lands for the ranching system, I think that it's a Herculean task. But I believe that if all Ghanaians, if all the people, the players, the key stakeholders in this issue come together to give them the push, they will be able to do this. If not, Nana will come back here probably a year or two, and we still have this issue or topic on the table, and we'll still be discussing it without getting to the bottom or the tail end of the issue.
I mean, I've got another message, also talking about the, ranching of the cattle, and giving an example within a Sojama, those who are fish farmers, go all the extent to cage the fish and feed it and, stay close by it. But with the cattle thing, I mean, because they're so far in the bush, I mean, who's going to drive in the bush to give them the feed? I mean, they don't even construct roads for me. You see the road to Odumasan where human beings live. We haven't even gotten the road, let alone some cattle in the bush somewhere. Who's going to construct the road for them? That will be another 100 years. Dr. Hani.
Well, it may not necessarily be so. We've already identified some lands, which we would look at them again and see what we can do. But when it comes to sending the feed, feed can be sent, by tractors, which will not need a sort of maybe road that we may be thinking of. And it has been done before. It's done in other places. So I don't see any reason why we should not succeed if we really put our hands together, our heads together. Because as I said at the beginning, we can't keep on like that all the time. There ought to be a lasting solution. And we are taking into consideration all lessons from all attempts that have been made. And we believe it might be a dialogue. We should understand what we're after. They are here, the Fulanis are here for food and water for the animals. We also need them because they play a major role in our food security. I mean, without them, there will be very, very little meat in this country. We need them. So let us give them what they want and let them give us what we want, and we live peacefully. In fact, for quite some time, some sort of dialogue has been going on in the northern sector, northern region, Upper West, Upper East, by Care International in Ghana, supported by USAID, Catholic Relief Services, and they brought together all the stakeholders, including the Fulanis. And I think they are getting somewhere, and we need to take such lessons and bring them together, and we are going to get everybody involved together in finding solutions. We are not going to prepare strategies in Accra and take it to them, but we want them to come out of what they think will be the final solution. But we know that definitely we must find places for them. They must come through approved routes. Before they get to the Ghana border, they even know where they are going. And there's a corridor for them to go through. They wouldn't have to go through other people's farms. And when they rest, there must be feed for them. That's where we want the private sector to come in. And I know it's going to be successful because people are already doing it. You get some people who put up a few grasses and so together and sell. So if it is profitable, they know they are going to make money out of it, definitely they will do it. And with support of the government, we should get that done and it should be successful.
How about proximity to town? Is there any law to say, look, maybe 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers from towns, don't come close to a town? I mean, should we start enforcing that if it's not already law?
Well, I don't know of any law like that. But then, I mean, if you go out of the country, I mean, to some of the above countries, you see that there are even ranches, in certain cases, which are quite close to the town. But the animals don't get out to destroy other people's crops. And this is what we need to do. We don't expect to have the reserves close to major towns. That should be the situation. The cattle should not get out of wherever they've been put, and we are going to ensure that that is done. It's going to be profitable for the herdsmen, not only those coming from us, but even our own internal, there's internal transhumance, where herders move cattle in Ghana, settled herders, Fulanis move cattle from one place to other. But even that, they must know where they are going to. And it should be reserves, fodder banks, but not roaming around. And even when they are going, there must be a corridor from wherever they are moving the animals. And we need to respect laws. And laws are not only for men, they are also meant for the herders and the cattle. And once that is done, we should get somewhere.
I mean, if we, still talk about diplomacy and all that stuff, how long before, Chief and his people, blow up completely?
Then I think going forward, yes, we've started the engagement all right, but we need to also attach some punitive measures. So if you are a chief or traditional leader and you release land to, say, a nomadic herdsman without the knowledge of the committee or the district level committees or the regional level committees, that would do well to also help solve the problem. What I foresee is the fact that we'll get to a point where the chiefs will say, we ourselves, the land belongs to us, so we have every right to decide whichever way to go or to use the land for. That is my problem. And if we shouldn't just rely solely on dialogue. I think that the law, we should have a law that can bite, and that will serve as deterrent enough to ward off people that you can't just wake up one day and say, I'm giving my land to a nomadic herdsman. Because after all, if you release a land to a herdsman, you go back home, you sleep, but he takes over the land in your absence. So how do you control? How do you monitor his movement? How do you even, follow up to see that I allocated land A, B, C, D to Mr. AJ, and he has, lived up to expectation within the confines of the land that I gave him?
But the other thing speaking to Superintendent OFOSU-HENE, I mean, there's been rapes, deaths, maiming, burning, everything, and they still think, well, let's go for diplomacy. You don't see why it's like, okay, that's it, we are moving in, enough is enough. I don't know. Well, I mean, what's
that has been our problem over the years, because we respect to, put so much emphasis or respect the ECOWAS protocols than our own laws. You see, we are talking about things that affect our people. As a country, we think that per ECOWAS protocols, it allows them some freedom of movement, the cattle, the herdsmen, some sort of freedom. So let's allow them to operate in our land, forgetting that we also have people to protect. That has been the issue, and it's been happening. In those areas, Agogo, for instance, a 32-year-old woman returned from the northern region, and within 2 weeks, a space of 2 weeks, he was raped by a nomadic herdsman on the farm. Terrible. And you can imagine the trauma that these women, especially those who are fallen victims, go through at the expense of ensuring that they get a livelihood.
Dr. Pong, I mean, is the committee taking all these things into account?
Yeah, we are. As I said, we are taking lessons from the past and current. Everything is being taken for us to be able to do what is right. And Mr. Ohimini mentioned the ECOWAS protocol. Yes, the protocol is rather in our favor. It tells us that cattle coming from outside must come through approved route. They must go through approved corridors to places that have been set by the country for grazing. So we rather are not, ensuring that. I mean,
so
once we ensure and make sure.
We are the ones to make sure that our laws work to protect us.
Yes.
Well, let's live and hope that our laws would protect. Well, those who are supposed to make our laws protect us, get up and be updoing. But it just makes you suspect that maybe there are some heavyweights who also own some cattle. That's why everybody's hands seem to be tied. But we'll live to see a day when this shouldn't be an issue. I want to say thank you very much to Dr. Powanane, and thank you to my brother OFOSU-HENE Interior. And Thursday we're back to do this all over again. Thank you very much for watching.